Something I really think about an awful lot these days is what it means to be human, our human experience, what it means to live in the day and age we live in, and have we even forgot some abilities that we had long ago? Abilities that if we had tapped into now, the world would work a lot more differently. The way you go to your job would be a lot more in line with who you are at a soul level. The way you interact with other people would be a lot more in line at a soul level. And so in this video, I'm going to talk about some things that we have maybe forgotten and left behind in our past as we've adopted technology and just a new radical way of living that, of course, has benefited our lives in many ways, but at the same time, I think being mindful of these few things, these few abilities, and knowing how to tap back into them will make a great amount of difference in your life. If you're someone who struggles with anxiety, maybe you're burnt out from your job, maybe you're somebody who's gone through some incredibly extreme traumatic experiences and now has maybe some form of PTSD. You've probably even tried some of the traditional medical methods, the routes that they give you, right? A therapist, some sort of psychiatric medications, and found that it's just a band-aid solution. I worked as a paramedic for almost a decade, and so right under the medical system, I saw how ineffective it really was, and how especially when it came to chronic illness and mental health issues, how under-equipped that industry, that whole sector is at helping you with your problems. So let's talk about some human abilities that we've maybe forgotten or left behind in our past that would be incredibly helpful to you now. One of those things is there's a field of study called noetics, and that's the inner knowing. It's studying your intuition, basically. And your intuition is something that was developed way long before we actually even had human speech. Because you can imagine you're trying to communicate with your tribe members, and you don't really have any form of universal language, and so the mind had actually adapted at that point to be able to communicate subconsciously or through the superconsciousness, which is a level of consciousness it's a unifying consciousness that exists above every individual, that is almost a shared consciousness. Some people call it a unity consciousness. I know Carl Jung, he referred to it as the collective unconscious. And the collective unconscious is something that you have access to, that you can tap into, and it's a form of inner knowing and guidance. They've done studies where this heart-mind connection, oftentimes, or what you might refer to as the gut feeling, is actually far more tapped in and far more accurate in knowing what the truth is than the analytical mind, your left brain analytical mind, which is sort of that's the society we run in. Left brain analytical, everything, even from the creative arts. I was going to go to university to learn how to be a industrial designer, and it's such a creative process to be an industrial designer. That's designing you're designing products, basically, but you're designing them to work in the best, most efficient way possible. There's a huge element of creativity there, but that gets hampered by the school system that wants you to analytically break every piece down so it's uniform, catering to the industrial age. But this more form of right brain abstract thinking is what actually connects you to the divine. Creation is actually connection to the divine, and this heart mind connection is what where you get this inner knowing from. When you just know, oftentimes it's our minds that kill our hearts. Our hearts already know what the answer is. You already know you're not happy with that person that you're with. You already know you hate that job that you go to every day, but you somehow analytically rationalize yourself to keep going back for more. And this is how the heart can become slave to the mind. And our ancestors knew, they were very mindful of this, and they actually thought about the world very differently, backwards actually. The heart was at the center of thinking. The knowing of the center of the heart was important. That's why meditation was so prized back then. And I'm so happy to see meditation come back in full force. The next one here I want to talk about is your higher guides. And we talked a little bit about divine connection, but your higher guides are their divine connection that lives in the fifth dimension. We're made up of, this reality is made up of multiple dimensions. This specific instance that we're living in here is a 3D reality. It's a projection, actually, of your mind. Your mind is not up here. These things we call here, these human beings, these bodies, are just manifestations or projections of a wave. There's actually, this has been scientifically proven. I'm not just going off here. This has been scientifically proven that it's called the double slit experiment. So what they've done is they shot electron particles through a slit, and they wanted to observe on the other side of this little slit what would happen. And the electrons, they assumed, would actually line up in line with the slit. If there's light shining through, it kind of will line up with where they shot through. But if they had scattered everywhere, then that would suggest to us that light actually bends. What they did the first time around is they did the experiment, and they found that electrons were scattered all the way around, suggesting that the light actually bends. Reality actually bends. But then when they had someone standing there observing the experiment, something interesting really happened. The particles that went through that previously scattered now perfectly organized themselves in a perfect pattern where they had aligned themselves with the slit. Now what the point I'm trying to make here is the particles only formed themselves when they were being observed. So you can think of this kind of like a video game. This reality is like a video game. The whole video, your computer does not have enough processing power to render the whole video game, the whole map, and all the roads and everything. It only creates and renders out the amount that you need to see. So as you keep moving forward, it's actually rendering more and more and more. And then, when you stop moving, your reality stays around you. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is reality is not real. It's all in your mind. And your inner state of being is actually the outer reflection of your reality. The ancient people understood this to a deep level. Now, I know I went off on a tangent there, but your higher guides also play in with this, because connecting to the higher guides, making this divine connection, will actually help you reshape your reality, because they can look from the fifth dimension down at the fourth dimension, fourth dimensional mind, and then the third dimensional projection, which is our reality, this physical, everything physical that we can touch and feel. And they can see the decisions you're making today and see the full path that you'll be taking and the outcome at the end. Now, that's not to say you won't have free will. I mean, even the ancients, they understood we have free will. But the free will is your decision, your initial decisions to make, the seeds you plant. The seeds you plant are up to you, but how the tree grows and who can see how the tree grows is all in the divine. It's all with your higher guides. They can see the path. And so the ancient people knew this, and they used meditations, they used many spiritual practices to make connections with their higher guide, because just as the name suggests, it was a higher level of guidance, inner wisdom, but with a depth to it that they could rely on to unlock their creative side. I mean, look at how far we've come as humanity, right? From sticks and stones to being able to build chairs and sitting in this comfortable room with lights and an incredible camera so it can, talk to you, and the infrastructure, internet infrastructure that allows us to do that. These are all manifestations of this divine co-creative experience that many famous people have relied on in the past, whether they admit to it or not. And so you too have access to this and can harness this. And it starts by going into a meditative state and asking for the connection, asking to connect with your higher guide, and then being open to whatever comes up, any voices, any suggestions that come up, especially if they're repeatedly coming up. That's something to think about. Your dreams, dream analysis is huge. I mean, the ancients knew that the soul leaves the body. When you go to sleep, your soul leaves the body, comes back when you wake up. And so that's to suggest that there's many other realities out there. And that when you're having a dream, it's not just a dream. It's not fake. As Biggie says, it was all a dream. I used to read Word Up magazine. But it's interesting, the nature of reality with higher guides, and I don't know what I was gonna say. I forgot. Dream analysis. That's what we were talking about. Dream analysis was it's an incredibly powerful practice to interpret your dreams, especially now with AI and ChatGPT. What I'll do is, whenever I have a crazy dream, last night I had a dream about a zombie apocalypse. So I'm curious to know what the meaning of that dream is. But what I'll do is I'll normally go into ChatGPT and I'll put in my dream just to see if it can give me a dream analysis. But there's many books out there, to help you interpret your dreams, because that's your subconscious mind communicating with you from another level of reality to possibly give you a message that might be helpful to you in your everyday waking life. Something the ancients understood very, very deeply. Also, another one here is our relation to emotions and medical health. So many diseases, diabetes, cancer, chronic pain, chronic back pain, all these diseases, chronic diseases, are a manifestation of deeper emotional suffering. And this has to come out some way. So if you're having a deeply emotional experience, men are guilty of this. We shove it down and we put it away. We don't want to express it. It manifests itself as something else. It manifests itself as a heart problem. It manifests itself as a tumor. These things are manifestations of deeper underlying emotional stressors. By targeting the underlying emotional issue, we can actually address the larger physical issue. But the way the medical system works is they address the problem at the end. They address the symptom of the problem. They don't actually address the problem itself. It's a very, it's a capitalistic way of dealing with it, which, capitalism has its benefits for across all levels of quality of life. But at the same time, I think capitalism and medicine sometimes misaligns the wrong incentives, So it's important to tap in with your emotions and what you're feeling at the moment, and you gotta feel it to heal it. Remember, my friend, feel it to heal it. That's something I'm working on lately. I was having a lot of gut issues, a lot of digestive issues when I was going through PTSD, and I was really, really burnt out from working as a paramedic. And what really helped me is tapping in with my emotions, having a good cry once in a while went a long way. Speaking to my friends, to my girlfriend about my emotions and what I'm, being vulnerable sometimes can be challenging, but at the same time so rewarding, because you feel much lighter after, and your body actually reacts to it. There's studies that show that someone who's in a chronically negative state will actually have an influence on their gut biome, the group of bacteria in their gut that are responsible for digestion will actually change, and they'll start having maybe acid reflux, or they'll start having some other stress-related digestive issues. So these are all things that can be treated on a deeply emotional level. Again, the ancient people knew this. It's something we've forgotten today because we've been given quick fix solutions through the current medical system. But I think people are waking up to it. If you're watching this video, you're obviously on this path to unlock these ancient techniques or wisdom. Of course, don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you have not already. This is something I'm deeply passionate about here. And I appreciate you hanging out with me here today for a casual conversation about what it means to be human and tapping back into our human abilities. So, with that being said, my friend, I hope you enjoy your day. Until next time, peace.